only thing we have to fear is
in war,
fear itself.
there is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we burn, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome to the intersection of faith and politics. WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thank you for joining us today. Visit online at wallbuilders.com and wallbuilderslive.com. David, a lot of things happened last year with regard to the government shutdown, and we did a lot of programs about that. But there was one particular area we didn't have a chance to interview the person that was involved in this, but unbelievable to me that the government would prevent a Catholic priest from giving Mass to military members of the military when he's willing to go in and do it, no charge. I'll do it for free. I don't care if you're shut down and don't have any money to pay me. I just want to serve these folks and allow them this religious service. And the government actually said no.
Yeah, there's a real attitude with that we've looked at in previous programs. One of the things we have on the WallBuilders website is a listing of all the acts of hostility from this administration just toward the military in general on faith, when it comes to faith. And so they have looked for, just it seems like every time you turn around, they're just sticking somebody else in the eye, taking their thumb and poking the eye with it.
And I shouldn't say just government in general. There are people making these decisions. I should say this administration.
This administration.
Yeah, this president and the people working for him did these things. Go ahead. Right. You were going to say some of the things.
Well, this is the most biblically hostile administration in American history. That's easily proven. We've got so many acts of that documented. No other president's ever done toward religion this way, but particularly single out the military. And what they've done in the military has been abominable. And when we got into that sequester, because, they wouldn't reach a budget deal and went and sequester, had to cut everything by 40%. Well, what they cut was 40% in the military, and I was with some of the military leaders, and they said, well, we got to get rid of and this is all the administration kind of folks, we got to get rid of non-essentials first, and that's all these chaplains. They got to go. I mean, we can't get rid of our aircraft pilots, and we can't get rid of the captains of our ship. We got to get rid of these chaplains. They're expendable. George Washington's just the other side. He said, there's no way you can win unless you have God's blessing. You can't do that without people to instruct and teach morality and religious principles to the soldiers.
So he thought it was essential.
He would have cut soldiers before he cut chaplains. And that's real clear by seeing what he did in the military to really make sure the chaplains were among the highest paid members of his staff throughout the entire American Continental Army. They were very highly paid because he wanted the best chaplains possible. And he was really disgusted because some of the chaplains were agreeing to serve as chaplains, but they were having to pay a pastor to come in and take their place. They weren't making enough money to cover the pastor that they needed to bring in to cover their flock while they were out preaching in the military. And so he was really ticked that these guys are getting paid so little that they're having to pay out of their own pocket to get someone to come. And so he really made sure they were highly paid and that they were a very prominent position because that was key. Well, this administration is just the opposite. And Ben Franklin said, unless the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it. And that was the founder's philosophy. If God doesn't bless you, you don't have enough military might. I mean, the Bible's full of stories with great armies who got whacked because God went on the other side. And so Hezekiah, they were surrounded there around Samaria and all the stuff that happened there. And God put a scare on the enemy and they all turned and slaughtered each other. And that kind of stuff has happened throughout history. So the current position of this administration is anything we can do to eliminate or cut off faith, that's going to be fine. That just saves us the money. We don't have to pay these guys. And even when you volunteer and say, well, if it's the money that's a problem, then I just won't take pay. I'll do it for free. Oh, no, we don't want that either. So it's not just the money.
They want to stop the religion.
That's right.
You're saying that this president, are you suggesting that Barack Obama is no George Washington?
I think
maybe he's showing us that. You don't even have to say that.
Would I go that far as to say that? Let's see. George Washington was he was not for homosexuals in the military. This president seems to be. George Washington was for a prominent role for chaplains, not this president. George Washington was a huge believer in the rights of conscience, not this president. George Washington was avid on traditional marriage, not this president. George Washington was really big on not spending if you didn't have the money to spend, not this president. George Washington fought debt like crazy, not this president. George Washington actually served in the military without pay and went through and paid his own way throughout the American Revolution. Not this president. George Washington didn't take vacations because he gave it to the troops. Not this president. Now, maybe I am saying that these two aren't the same.
You didn't even know that question was coming, man. You just pulled that list off the top of your head. No, so this president spends more time playing golf. George Washington went and served without pay. Interesting comparison there, too.
He gave to the revolution. He tried later years to get some repayment for all the expenses he had put in the revolution, but that was not his condition. I mean,
so Washington prioritized chaplains and faith in the military. Let's take a look at what this president's administration has done to religion, and in this case, a father that was trying to give Mass, even without pay, to these members of the current military. He's going to be with us when we come back. Father Leonard's going to be with us, and his attorney, Erin Mersino, will be back here on WallBuilders Live. Hey friends, this is Rick Green, and I want to share with you a phenomenal opportunity for your family. David Barton and I both have family members experiencing this right now. It's called College Plus, and it is the best program out there for saving your family a tremendous amount of money on college education for your children, but more importantly, years of their life and getting them in touch with their purpose, their greatest calling that God has on their life right now. And this is not some mail-order college degree, folks. I'm talking about getting your degree from places like Liberty University or Concordia University or Bryan College, I mean, great colleges and universities, and other ones as well. My son Trey's doing it right now at only 16 years old. He's already a sophomore in college. It's been a phenomenal experience for our family. No age requirements, folks. You can do College Plus as well, regardless of your age. You got to check it out right now at WallBuildersLive.com.
Let the torch of freedom
Welcome back to the intersection of faith and politics. WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thanks for staying with us today. Our guest today is Father Ray Leonard and also attorney Erin Mersino. And Erin, you're with Thomas More Law Center, correct?
Correct.
You guys do great work. I just want to tell you, we love you guys and appreciate what you're out there working on. Y'all won so many important cases in defending religious liberty and so many other things, and we appreciate you standing with Father Leonard. Father, thank you so much for coming on today, and thank you for being willing to stand for your faith and stand for serving these men and women in uniform.
Thank you. We're very happy to be here and glad that we have an opportunity to stand up for our people in the military. Well,
you actually have been talked about on our program before in a good light. David and I were chatting back when all this went down, and just amazed that they would try to stop you from serving people. And if I understand right, they said they blamed the government shutdown, and you're saying, hey, I'm here to serve. I'll do it under any circumstances. Tell us a little bit about what happened back then.
Well, yeah, we were informed. We had no idea. We knew there was a shutdown, but we thought that we had escaped any repercussions. And I was doing my services as usual during the week, and I had made it known that I would be willing to forego my pay. And then all of a sudden on Friday night we get a call, and word came down from higher ups in Washington and said there will be no masses for the Catholics this weekend. And it was absolutely a catastrophe, because we have hundreds of people who come. And so we were basically just shut out of the chapel with no recourse or negotiation or anything. So
it wouldn't have cost them anything for you guys to go ahead and have the services. I mean,
absolutely not.
What was their motivation in preventing y'all from having Mass?
Well, they claim some kind of legality of some law from the 19th century, and we were just saying, for Roman Catholics, if you tell Roman Catholics you can't have Mass, you're denying them the practice of the religion. And so we made it very clear that this would be something that we would not just sit back and take. And but we had to make arrangements to go to other locations and everything else, and it was absolute chaos.
Father, I've never been on a battlefield in uniform, but just from reading and studying history, and just even from watching movies, it seems like even in the worst of conditions, in the middle of a war, we find a way to allow for mass. Haven't we always done that?
Well, if you've seen that movie, A Sole Survivor, and what struck me when I watched that is our men and women in uniform go to these horrific places and face off against these despicable creatures that are trying to hurt Americans. And we had a situation here that we were dealing with in October, where they're telling our military Catholic people, we're going to take away your right to practice your religion this weekend and next weekend, and that was just something that we couldn't just sit back and take.
Yeah, so the worst kind of despicable war conditions won't stop mass, but a budget fight does. It's absolutely absurd. So what happened next? Yeah. What's the reason for the lawsuit itself?
Well, the lawsuit is just so we can protect ourselves in the future, because we don't know if they on such flimsy grounds just arbitrarily tell us you Catholics can't have your religious service this weekend. What's going to stop them from doing it a month from now or 6 months from now? So we're going to need a decision from the courts to tell them that that's a violation of our rights and stop them from doing that in the future.
So it's a preventative measure to keep other people of faith in the future from being denied.
Protect our people's religious rights, absolutely.
Did I read correctly? You were actually even locked out of your office, is that right?
Well, I was told that I could not do anything. I could not do anything on the base that would appear as work. And basically, I couldn't minister to my people. How ridiculous is that? If somebody was dying, like, I'm not going to give them the last rites or hear the confession.
Yeah.
And possibly be fired over that. And this is something that is just so foreign to everything we are as Americans, and our respect and the central place that we have for religion and the practice of religion.
I'm almost speechless. I'm sitting here thinking about, even I was just reading a book that was talking about the bombing of London in World War II, and just the constant barrage, and how people managed to somehow still go about their lives and do things, and obviously have mass and everything else. And I'm thinking, they could move forward in those scenarios, and yet we're not willing to let the Father go into the chapel or be able to serve these men and women in a peaceful situation. It's just the height of lunacy in my mind. We got to take a very quick break, guys. When we come back, Erin, tell us about the case, what you expect, and how people can help you guys, what they can do to help, whether it's spreading the word, letting people know what happened here, and prevent it from happening in the future. Help you guys with the case itself, whatever they can do to help. We want to do that. Erin Mersino is our guest, Thomas More Law Center. And Erin, what's the website for Thomas More Law Center, real quick?
It's Thomas More, which is spelled like the saint, MORE.org.
All right, and we'll have a link today so folks can get there quick, and Father Leonard will still be with us when we come back. Stay with us here on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. Federal courts have made several amazing rulings recently, ordering the removal of a cross from a cemetery, banning religious holiday displays, removing the Ten Commandments from public view, prohibiting student prayers whether verbal or silent, and numerous other similar restrictive rulings. As one current justice has noted, the Supreme Court has now become, quote, a national board of theology. Our founding fathers would be astounded. They designed the First Amendment to keep the federal courts completely out of this issue. As Thomas Jefferson forcefully declared, I consider the federal government as prohibited by the Constitution from meddling with religious exercises. The First Amendment was designed to keep decisions on religious expression out of the federal courts and in the hands of the local communities.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live, and be sure and check out that website at for the Thomas More Law Center. And Erin, I'm actually going to partially answer your question because I want people to go to that website and contribute in order to help you take cases like this, because you guys do this all the time. You take on these battles, and if it wasn't for supporters out there, we wouldn't have you on the front lines willing to step up. So encourage people to do that today. But what else can we do? What do you think is going to happen with the case, and what for you would be a win in this case?
What would be a win is the law that is in place that forbid Father Leonard from simply celebrating Catholic Mass during the government shutdown. It would have actually penalized him up to $5,000 and imprisonment of up to 2 years. So we want that law to not apply to religious services and religious practices.
Wait a minute. You're saying that the law on the books could have literally, if someone had enforced that punishment, Father Leonard could have been sentenced to jail for performing a Mass?
Yes, it's the Anti-Deficiency Act, and it forbids any sort of voluntary services during the time of government shutdown. So that's the reason why Father Leonard was not allowed to go back to work.
Even
and the penalty for the violation. Yes.
I can't help but just almost want to laugh as you're saying those words. The prevention of voluntary services.
Yes.
Really? We're going to stop people from offering to volunteer to serve other people?
I know.
I'm sorry. I should have interrupted you. I just cannot believe the lack of common sense in Washington, D.C. Go ahead.
No, it's astounding. And we filed the lawsuit at the time Father Leonard was still not allowed to return back to work. The Department of Justice called us and said, we'll allow Father Leonard to go back to work so he can go back tomorrow. That day when Father Leonard went back to work, there were still 81 Catholic chaplains who were out of work, who were not allowed to return. So it was still an ongoing problem, and we want to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. There's actually a sign that was placed on the chapel door that said there will be no Catholic Mass due to government shutdown, but Protestant services will continue.
You're kidding me.
It was pretty interesting, and that's due to a legal technicality, but still, I mean, just the gross unfairness of the wording of that sign is alarming, and we don't want that sort of thing to ever occur in the future, no matter which religion needs protection. We want to make sure that people are allowed to simply celebrate their religion and do, you know, as the First Amendment allows everyone to do, which is the freedom to exercise their religion.
Absolutely. Tell me you got a picture of that sign.
Yes, we did. Thanks to the Knights of Columbus. Yes.
I'm a Protestant, but I'd go to the mat for you, Father, to be. That offends me greatly that they would say that the Protestants could have their service and you couldn't have Mass.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, and just the fact that it would happen. My experience the last 10 years is China. I was used to religious oppression, but I certainly was completely broadsided that it would happen here.
So, if I understood you right, Erin, then even because of the the sunlight, the disinfectant of sunlight that was shown on this case, Father Leonard was allowed to go back, but like you said, the rest of them weren't because they didn't have the same help and defense. So by bringing the suit, really you're standing up for all those other chaplains and others to be able to not only next time, but even right now to still have the same freedoms.
Exactly, yes.
So tell me how this works now. This lawsuit, is this in a federal district court, or is this a military court, or how does this work?
It's in the federal district court in D.C., and right now we're going through motion practice in the case, and, cases move rather slowly in the federal court. So we'll probably, see a judgment in several months from now. But
your goal is to get the court to say that this statute itself needs to be thrown out completely.
What we're looking for is an exemption for religious exercise.
Oh, okay, that's right. You said that. I should have caught that. So it's not. So the statute would still prevent other services type things during a government shutdown, but there should be a religious exemption.
Correct.
Gotcha. All right. Well, You know,
which doesn't seem like too much to ask.
No, and you know, you
really.
would think that the higher ups would just do that. You know, I mean, you'd think after this is brought to light, yeah, you'd think that either the brass in the military or the president, somebody would step in and say, hey, guys, common sense tells you that this is ridiculous, but obviously they haven't done that, and thankfully you guys are willing to fight for it. And as I mentioned earlier, what can we do to help? Obviously, we want people to go to your website and contribute to help you guys cover the legal bills to go do this. What else can they do?
Certainly go to the website and, follow this case. Father Leonard is truly a hero, and I am so humbled to be representing him and honored to be representing him. And, follow this case and, stay informed with the different cases of the Thomas More Law Center, because we have so many battles that we're fighting in the courts to protect our religious freedom, our freedom of speech, the traditional family. And so, we're at no shortage of cases these days.
So, Father Leonard, we have hundreds of thousands of people out there listening. Is it okay with you if we all plaster your face all over Facebook and talk about this? Because we really want to bring this to light.
Sure. I feel this is just such an important issue, and if we don't stand up when people in government begin to infringe upon any of our rights, then we just invite it to happen again in the future, and they'll be more aggressive the next time. They have to know, and particularly our elected officials, that people are watching, and they're going to vote based on how people respond to this.
Father, I understand now because of what you said earlier about you've been in China, you've seen this, you've seen religious persecution, and as you just said, what comes next if we don't stand up now, put a stop to it right now. I thank God for you. Thank you for being willing to stand. Thank you, Erin, for being willing to fight for him, and to the Thomas More Law Center. I hope our listeners will go out there and give you some help, and we'll be praying for a wonderful victory in this case.
Thank you, Rick.
Appreciate you guys.
So much.
Thank y'all for coming on today. Appreciate your time.
Oh, we appreciate you.
Thank you. Be back in a moment with David Barton.
Hey guys, this is Tim Barton with WallBuilders, and I know you hear my dad and Rick talk a lot about our founding fathers, about the original intent of our nation, the constitutional heritage that we have, and really we've seen how far we've slipped away from that. And I know a lot of us, as we hear my dad and Rick talk, think, I wish there was a place that I could go and I could see these documents and I could read and learn about the founding fathers firsthand, see the things they did. And I want to give you some websites today that can help you accomplish that very thing. If you get online, you can go to places like Library of Congress and you can look under their Century of Lawmaking or historical documents. You can go to the Avalon Project, to the Founders Constitution, to Google Books, or even the Internet Archives, or you can just go to WallBuilders' website. We have a section for our library, and under that section we have different subgroups for historical documents, historical writings, even a place where you can get helpful links to find out more information about other websites where you can do research for yourself and find the truth for yourself. Friends, this is a time that we need to know who we are and where we came from. WallBuilders.com is a great place to go.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. Special thanks to Father Leonard and the Thomas More Law Center for defending him. David, I'm going to guess on this one. I can usually tell the things that you don't like and the things that just really get under your skin and bother you. When our administration prevents people of faith from being able to exercise their faith, that's a big one.
Well, there were two things that really stood out with what he said. One, and this was his quote, he said, "The word came down from Washington, D.C. that there will be no Catholic masses this weekend." Now, when Washington, D.C. starts telling you when you cannot have religious worship services, we got massive problems. When Washington, D.C. is allowed to tell us whether we can or cannot have Mass or, for Protestants, religious worship services, when Washington is in charge of that, we now have a state-established religion, which is exactly what the Founding Fathers objected to, top to bottom. And then, when you tell me that it is now against the law for me to be a good Samaritan, that if I want to volunteer to help someone, I can't do that. As a matter of fact, if I become a good Samaritan, I could face 5 years in jail and a $2,000 fine for volunteering my services to help.
Unreal.
How many ways can you spell stupid? There's only one way you need to, FEDERAL, government.
Yeah.
I mean, this is absurd. That you will not take voluntary help during a shutdown? Man, any bit
Common
of volunteering
sense tells you this is crazy.
Any bit of volunteering you can do to help drive the federal costs down, you ought to take it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what the president is saying. You know, if you'll trade service, if you go to the Peace Corps, whatever, we'll cover your college. That sounds like volunteer work to me. But no, we're not going to allow you to volunteer, especially if it has religious overtones.
Well, and
this is just
think about how you were just saying that Washington is going to tell us we can't do this, we can't do that, and when we worship and all that. How appalling that the city named after George Washington, who we talked about in the first part of the program, Washington was the opposite. The real Washington was the opposite of this. He would have been totally against this idea.
There were two things that Father Leonard said that really stood out to me. One is, he had just come from China. No wonder he recognized religious oppression. You know, so he'd just come out of China. He said, I didn't expect to see it here. I was used to seeing it in China, not here. But the second thing, and maybe this is because he'd come out of China, I don't know what it is, but I love his backbone. He's back to doing masses. I mean, he's back to... So why not just drop the lawsuit? No, absolutely not. I'm going to get this thing knocked off the books that no one will ever face this again. Good for him.
Yeah, he's thinking about a lot more than just himself.
That's right. If it's just to him, he's back to doing mass. He's in good shape. No. He doesn't want anyone in any future generation ever to face what he faced. And good for him for standing up for the rights of everybody else.
Amen. Great stuff. Just honored that we were able to get him on the program and thankful for what he's doing. And again, to the Thomas More Law Center, it's those groups out there like that are on the ground ready to take on cases just like this are the reason we end up winning them. Thank you for listening today, folks. You've been listening to WallBuilders Live.
We stand undivided.